All right, thank you everybody for coming out. We got a good crowd tonight. And tonight I wanted to return to the pawn structure series. So every month I try to cover a different pawn structure, which I think is kind of fundamental to understanding lots of chess positions. Especially people, they spend a lot of time learning openings, but especially at the beginning when you're starting out in chess, and I mean, it goes on throughout your chess career, that you need to sort of fundamentally understand pawn structures, and the way that the pawns are located on the board is going to tell you where you want to put your pieces and how you want to organize your attacks and which pawn breaks you should be playing for. So tonight I will be taking a recommendation. This was the first one that I saw when I was looking to see what you guys on YouTube wanted to see. So again, if you want to see a pawn structure, just comments below, let me know, and maybe you'll get featured here on the show. This is for Piyush Bothra, who wants King's Indian mainline pawn structure. And I thought that'd be an interesting one, so we will jump over to here. And we will, one second, in this position, we're going to go ahead and we're going to look at a couple different things that can occur in this pawn structure. So this is sort of the starting point of any King's Indian. Kind of imagine the kings aren't on the board. We're just going to be focusing here on the pawns. And as you can see, white has a little bit more space in these kinds of positions. Black is probably fianchetto to bishop. And what can generally happen in these types of positions is one of three ways to break the tension in the center. The most popular structure that will arise from here, and we'll have a look at it, is the move d5. White just takes more space, and now white has a lot more space on the queen side, so that's where he'll be playing for the rest of the game. For example, we might play b4, c5, and we can open files on the queen side. That's where we'll be focusing all of our attention. Black, on the other hand, has more space on the king side. His pawns are pointing this way. So he'll be trying to play moves like f5. And often in these positions, when white is castled king side, black can go in for a big attack, and he can launch all of these pawns and try to open up lines on the king side. So very often the question is, will black's attack succeed? Will he get there in time and be able to land a lethal blow? Or will white crash through on the queen side and ultimately get enough counterplay to win the game? Another way that you can change the pawn structure here, let me make a nothing move here for white, is black can take on d4. This is not a very common way to play, but it's been played by some very serious people out there. And we can imagine probably a knight, maybe a queen takes back here, and we get sort of the Maroczy bind structure, but it's a little bit different. There's a d pawn and no e pawn, and we'll just whoop off the screen somehow. Nah, can't do it. But okay, if you imagine that we took this pawn back in your head, there's a couple different things that black can do in this type of structure. One is he can play moves like c6, and he can bring this queen in. Often the queen can come in here and cause some problems, and sometimes black is able to win a pawn. Because, for example, if we can imagine this in our head, if the queen's on b4 and we play b3 to protect our b pawn, black can put his pawn all the way down, and he can try to create a target here. So often this happens, and sometimes black is able to win a pawn on the queen side. This is one possible strategy for him. And what often happens is, well, then your queen and some of your other pieces are all the way over there. So sometimes while you're winning the pawn over here, you get checkmated over here. But sometimes you're up a pawn, so people like to do it because it's very dynamic. Another way to play, again with c6, is to insert the move a6 and b5. That's another break, and you want to start to tear down this bind that white has, which is also why the third way is f5. Everything to, obviously it's kind of a committal move, but okay, maybe we can open it up and break the bind apart. Another thing that might happen for black after the move c6, very often he'll try to play the move d5 and get rid of this weak d pawn. So that's one way that people play, and if black gets it in successfully, then he can be doing great, but other times, doesn't work. It just depends on the exact position we have in front of us. And okay, white tries to play, he tries to not trade a lot of pieces in this kind of line because he has more space. And if he can successfully put all of his pieces on active squares and avoid trades, then usually he's doing pretty well. And the last structure here that we're going to look at, we'll actually look at it in our first game, is sort of the exchange variation, which I don't think a lot of club players play, but I know there's at least one guy that plays here in all of our tournaments. And he has a very good success rate. He just always plays the exchange variation here of the King's Indian, and he does very well with it. And okay, white obviously has more space, but just looking at the pawn structure, one thing you'll notice is black has good control here over d4. Also, d3 is kind of weak, so sometimes we can use that square. But the big difference is if white ever gets a piece to d5, it can always be kicked away eventually with a move like c6. That does, however, give up the d6 square sometimes, so we got to be a little bit careful. But this is a more permanent kind of square. Imagine a good knight there versus some light squared bishop or something, and that would be just a crushing position. So that's obviously that'd be the dream endgame if you were playing this as black. I got a knight here, and you got like a bishop here, and your pawns are all on light squares. That'd be sort of the dream here for black. Well, actually, we'll just get to it here. Let's jump to our first game. And I want to show this. This was a game between Silvio Danilov versus Garry Kasparov, who was just here in town. And this was played in the World Junior Championship from 1980. Okay, and in this game, we're not going to focus so much on the opening. But here we have it, so the exchange King's Indian, which is sort of an underestimated weapon in my opinion, because I think a lot of people don't actually know how to play this against this as white. And normally when black plays King's Indian, I don't know. You normally get wild attacking games. This is going to be a lot more positional. Okay, and so queens were exchanged. Notice that you can't yet take on e5 because knight takes e4, and there's some discovered stuff on that suspicious diagonal. And okay, we're not going to focus too much on the opening. The main move here is rook to e8. In the game, Kasparov chose knight b to d7. Castling long was probably a little bit better. But we're going to get to a simple position here where, okay, he achieved the two bishops. And Garry made an interesting choice here. You might think, this guy's doing nothing, go here. But he actually decided to rid himself of the pin. So he got out of the pin. That was his idea. White castled, which is probably an inaccuracy. And now here, black played knight to c5. And so this is going to be the first interesting moment of the game. So there's pressure on the e-pawn. And what white decided to do here was, okay, a move that has serious consequences for the remaining part of this game. So this here, he decided the only way to get rid of it, perhaps you can consider sacking that pawn. But he took this bishop. Okay, and we take back. And you do not want to get rid of that bishop in the position like this. So you can see now we have the potential in the future to land a knight on d4 and control that square in some lines. So this is, actually quite a concession. The question now is how will Garry exploit this? And okay, he does it beautifully even when he was a junior. So we're gonna see how this totally impacts the game. Okay. So he protects the pawn. And in these lines, a very typical move for black, if it's white's turn, maybe I can kick your knight away with a move like b4. So a very typical move, a5. Just keeping the square available for your knight, and we'll decide where we want to go a little bit later. Okay, he brought his rook in. Now Garry played a very nice move I quite like. And okay, I guess here too, I'd like to just do a little planning exercise. I just wonder, and there's got to be multiple right answers. It's not like there's one move in this position. But let's just think about all of our pieces and see if we can come up with an optimal setup here as black. So go ahead and pause your video. I'm going to give these guys a little bit of time just to plan. I think this is a very interesting position already. And in a minute, I'll ask you guys how you would sort of assess this position and what your plan might be. You want to somehow open the C file. A move like B5. Okay. Which seems entirely reasonable. I don't think it's a bad move at all. And it's actually the move. And okay. And again, I always prepare these. I show them to like somebody and I see what they would say. And that was the move one of our highest rated instructors came up with. Okay. And after we do this, I can play King B1. If I remember, that's the right way to do this. And this actually is okay for black. I mean, this is, a very valid way of continuing. But now that it's 2-on-2, I don't know if you're actually really going to get an attack going over here. And I'm still wondering what this guy is up to. Oh, okay. I mean, you played B5. It's an okay move. Yeah. And just looking at your pieces, which piece do you think you need to find a better home for? The bishop. Yeah. So, okay, we begin imagining, okay, I got to do something with that guy. And we begin visualizing where would the optimal place be on the board. And, okay, his vision was quite deep here. And in general, I like to think of it as teleportation. You might think of it however you think about it in your head. But I try to pick it up in my head, and I begin trying out all these squares. Where do I want to be? And you want to try to find the best home for your bishop. And in this position, Garry played rook e8. We'll see the point of this in a second. And rook e8 conquering the d file. You heard me right. It's actually, he had a very long plan to actually get control of the d file by not starting there. The d file, yeah, can you believe it? That's what I said, And you can't say crazy things on the internet, so it must be right. But yeah, obviously it's a very tempting move. But he's deciding he's going to use this square for his bishop. So we can begin imagining where that guy might go and how it might influence certain files on the board. So he went back and bishop d8. Where's he going? Okay, so this bishop is going to reemerge somewhere on this side, a4. And now we're beginning to see where the bishop is going. He decided to put his bishop on a5. So, okay, at home, if you thought, of this very powerful remaneuvering, then congratulations. Because now, this diagonal makes it really hard for black to get control of the d file. And so now he just goes ahead and he takes it. Okay, so there was the trade. And he takes with the rook, which you'll notice hangs this pawn here. However, this will be very, very dangerous to take. Just letting my rook into d2 like this. Yeah, the audience is mostly just shaking their heads. Yeah, just don't do it. Okay, minimum I can take on f2. I could start with f6. So that's not something that you should allow in this position. So okay, he went bishop to h3. So the knight is still controlling the d2 square, f6. And black has emerged with a better position here. He's just clearly better. We'll see what he can do with these active pieces, but all of his pieces are superior to any of the ones of white. So in this position now. And he's very patient too in this game. He plays a very patient move. Just a little probing move. In this position. Just slow improving. I just move my king up. Knight d3. The idea is to go to b4 and you have difficulties protecting this and your back rank. So he provoked a3. And he just goes back. Okay. Just slowly improving. Now I have control over b3. And White's not doing anything, so all right. h4, maybe you're gonna get some counterplay over there. I don't think so. White's just kind of shuffling around. And I believe here he actually plays a very, very good move. Very good move here. And again, you can keep being patient. You know, you could knight b3. You could play some, you know, other slow move. You could do nothing. You can move your king up. You could do a whole variety of things. But I'm wondering if you guys can figure out what Garry did here. And it's remarkable. So that's the hint. You can pause at home. And it can be sometimes hard to gauge, you know, should I do something or should I just keep being patient? Well, here he finds something very concrete. Do we have any ideas as to what he played here? Knight b3 is just, yeah, it's just, okay. Just a nice normal move, and this certainly is just a very good move. And you can just keep waiting, and White will also, you know, maybe keep waiting. Do you have any concrete plan after this move, or do you have an idea? Let me just try not to do anything. Did you have more after this?
What if first bishop b6 before moving there?
Okay, so you want to go here. Okay, and I think in general, maybe this, I don't know, I kind of still like going here because in some lines I can play rook to d2. That's a huge part of this position. Your knight is kind of tied down because, okay, but you can go here, so I'm going to move my rook somewhere. I'm just going to go all the way back, try to be as safe as I can.
I'm trying to coach the pawn in f2, not create some threat.
Yeah, you're trying to get some threat here.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, maybe you will. I don't think this actually helps me at all because, you know, you have knight d3. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I think you can probably just go get this guy if you, sometimes. Though, I mean, there's also interesting ideas. I can go like this and try to like somehow get some fake counterplay. But I don't know. I think this is just a better diagonal for the bishop. So he didn't put his bishop on b6. I think this is just a better diagonal. And a big clue as to what he played here, I'll just highlight the square. The problem is this knight. If we could get that knight to go away, then rook to d2 becomes a very serious threat.
Well, how much do you want to pay to do that?
Yeah, I want to.
G5,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. He played g5. I'm gonna play g4. Your knight's gonna move, and okay. So he took. All right, welcome, Ken.
What time did you start?
We started a little late. I mean, theoretically at 6:30.
I thought it was 7. My bad. I'm sorry.
That's fine. Okay, and so you might be thinking, what if I take here, which is one thing you could do. Too bad Ben's not here. You can't get this wild Ken West cameo on tape. They're so rare these days. Thanks for coming, Ken. Well, here, I guess also here. Both, I assume anything that goes to d2 here is a good move. So he can't even take it, which is a major issue. In the game, he tried rook e2, so that if you kick my knight away, I at least control the d2 square. But now he goes here. And White went back. Now if here, we have here. So he went back and just king f6. And it's remarkably difficult for White to move. So he didn't. He resigned in this position. And yeah, spend as much time as you want looking at this. It's like basically Zugzwang here. You can't move anything. So I don't even know what to suggest for White. I'll play anything you guys want. But I mean, this was fascinating. Already, it's just so bad that he had had enough in this position. And it all goes back to this very decision.
Check checkmate threats even, no?
Yeah, there's lots of checkmating threats, so you got to be really careful, and you're probably losing some stuff. It all goes back to this position and this decision to trade the dark squared bishops. And he was able to make use of this fact. He's got the dark squared bishop. And okay, another brilliant conception, bring the bishop over to the other side of the board, and then conquer the d file, and suddenly all of his pieces are a lot more active than white's, and he was able to convert it without any serious difficulty. All right. Let's look at another game here. We'll flip it. We'll give white a chance to win. This is the game between Vladimir Kramnik and Judit Polgar. It was played in 1997. Okay, it was game in 60 minutes. All right, so again, we're not going to focus on the opening so much. But here we see it's sort of the exchange variation where we get these pawns that we were looking at. And again, sort of the strategy for white is to go after this focal point here, d6. And black has different ways to try to break the bind. So we'll see what was chosen. Okay, rook e8 is the most popular move, provoking f3. And we'll see what plan she decides to choose. Okay, so she goes after the pawn. And all of this is theory. So the knight goes back. And now a5, a4 to kick the knight away. So all of this is theory, so we won't focus too much on it. But here, however, she made a very interesting decision. Almost everybody plays queen d8, and this is still theory. But I wanted to pick this game, in a pawn structure lecture, because what square should we all be looking at when she played c5? d5. This is going to be the focal point for the rest of this entire game. And I suppose she figured, okay, I understand that I've created a weakness. I have a backwards pawn on d6. I get it. But I'm hoping to immediately get some activity for my pieces. For example, now I can play knight here, bishop here, go after the pawn. I can kick your knight to a bad square. Okay, your knight has to go to a square like c1. And maybe I can do something immediately. But Kramnik, being super grandmaster that he is, he was able to coordinate his pieces and then ultimately exploit the d5 square. So that's going to be the theme of the game. And we'll see how he did it. Okay, she brings the knight in. And then the next move is bishop e6, and then something takes. So rook d1, so that you can meet bishop e6 with b3. Takes. All right. Now he plays rook d1. Now I can move my knight, and we can trade queens. And okay, it's always an interesting decision in any game. I mean, who wants to trade the queens? Well, I think here it's actually Kramnik. So he moves his knight to, attacking the square. He wants to trade the queens, and I'm just going to focus. This is the only advantage I need. I need, this one weakness here, and I'm eventually going to control it. Then I'm going to take advantage of this guy, and he's able to do these things. So we'll see how this happens. All right, I'm attacking this twice. So you have to play a move like knight e8. A very interesting maneuver. All right. So the knight's going here, where it'll control d5. And f5. You have to do something like this. It's, you got to break the bind down. You got to somehow eventually be able to play a move like d5. So I think this is a good choice. However, after the recapture, this bishop won't be able to stay here forever. It is a nice diagonal. It's a reasonably good diagonal. But it's not permanent. g4. And okay, you can see that white just has a totally dominant position here. I'm controlling all of the important squares. In black, we'll never play d5. So, okay, we go after the pawn. It's protected. b6. So you're solidifying c5. Maybe you can go here. But now also occasionally there could be some ideas on this diagonal. You'll notice how right now this doesn't quite work because it allows d5. But it's something we want to keep in mind. Because king g2. h6. And this is actually a very bad move. White had a very good position, but now he actually turns it into a huge advantage. How do we exploit this move, h6? Sort of hinted at it. Yeah, now bishop d3, because it comes with tempo. And so she played g5 and bishop e4. So yeah, she let the bishop come to an even better, more active square, which is unfortunate for her. And then, to make matters worse, she's getting sick of these knights. She's willing to pay the cost of a dark squared bishop. However, now there's also going to be ideas of like h4 and you know, breaking that open, which is exactly what happens. And White is probably winning already. This is just such an advantage here. And now bishop g5. So now, okay, collect some more stuff. I don't think it lasts too much longer. But yeah, now he plays another excellent move here. We've been sort of avoiding actually using the square for any of our pieces because we never want a situation where black can take and we'd have to, you know, take back with the pawn. At least normally that's true. However, here knight to d5 was played. So we have some ideas. So she ended up taking. And yeah, you might expect, yeah, bishop takes, rook takes. Took with a pawn. Very concrete, yeah. Yeah, get that bishop out. And okay, and now it's over. And this was great too. Yeah, obviously you can take the rook. This is even stronger. Yeah, that was great. That was a great move too. And then, yeah, rook h1 wins. This totally wins. The point is now if you're here. I mean, okay, so that's the game. So here she gave it up. And it comes back to this move that she played early on. This is a very committal decision, c5. You know, you really better have something concrete if you play this. And maybe she had something prepared. Who knows? But it also is a relatively quick game, you know, 60 minutes. But it all comes back to that. And even though White initially had to put his pieces in, okay, not the dream square, they actually found all the right squares quite naturally, which is, you know, okay, so we get all of our knights to all the right squares. And then, okay, then she even let the bishop get to a good square. And all right, so it's a very well-played positional game by Kramnik, as he does sometimes. He tends to do that. So we will look at one more game. And we'll look at the main line King's Indian here. Okay, and we'll make one more move. And so this is the game Korchnoi Fischer. This was a blitz game, and it was played in 1970. And remember that it's a blitz game because he comes up with some pretty fantastic stuff, even though it's a fast game, game in 5 minutes. 92. That used to be a popular move. It's not so popular anymore, and this game isn't a good case for you should be playing 92 in this position. But okay, it's a very interesting system, and a very interesting move, c5. I think this is quite an interesting way to play. The idea is to slow down White's play on the queen side, as we'll see. So now even if you get these moves in, this can be met with a move like b6. That's the idea. And okay, when you have space like this, it's obviously White that wants to play on the queen side. That's where you have more space. You want to break through there. Black's going to move his knight, and he's going to try to play f5, f4, and these pawns are going to try to go like this and deliver checkmate. Okay, so these things all kind of happened. So b6. Now if you take, I can take with my b pawn. You don't get a big monster pass pawn. And f5. And in this game, White just never really gets anything going on the queen side, this is sort of a nice model game if you're trying to play King's Indian. Okay, f3, very common. So if I take here, you can take back with a pawn, and the open f file would mean we would trade rooks, and it's harder to mate me if we trade a lot of stuff. So he played f4. a4. He's going to play a4, a5. At some point, you know, okay, you're going to open up the b file, or you're going to do something. But black is just quicker in this game. He plays g5. a5, we can see the race. And there's lots of unusual maneuvers that you see in the King's Indian that you don't see in a lot of other openings. Obviously, h5 here is a good move, but he plays rook f6. And he's going to go to g6. We can see there's often funny maneuvers like this, or sometimes the bishop moves, and the rook from here can slide over to g8. You know, you see all sorts of interesting maneuvers in these kinds of positions. Okay, white opens the b file, but there's still not really too much cause for concern. White is still a long way from doing anything over there. You can, obviously, you can try to play a6. I mean, it doesn't matter. The pawn doesn't matter. Black will probably not even take it. But how are you going to get your pieces into action over there? I guess this guy has a good square, or, you know, what are you going to do? It's not so obvious. But Fischer's plan is pretty obvious. I'm going to checkmate you. That's the plan. Bishop d2. Okay, somehow you're going to play like these moves, and maybe you're going to get some stuff going on. Well, it's still quite a long way away. And here h5 would just be normal. It's a normal good move. But he waited, and he just played g4. And this is sort of an issue, because you kind of have to take. If some legal move, then just g3. And stuff's going to open up, because after h3, I think here the very typical sacrifice does work. When you play the black side of the King's Indian and they play h3, you take it. And here, yeah, this looks pretty good. So you got to worry about these things, which is why in the game he felt compelled to take it. So we take back. Sure. Rook h6. It's my wife. She's from she flew to Florida today. Hey, Levy. All right, cool. Yep. What's that? All right, love you. Good. All right, love you very much. No, we're filming right now. Well, I'll call you again tonight.
Okay, bye.
All right, love you, bye. All right, she's safe, for the record. She's safe. Whew. Okay, so here he played h3. There's a pin, so we don't have to move the knight immediately. So he gets this other knight into the game. Okay, so we're seeing, black's made a little progress. We've opened up the king side a little bit, but okay, how are you gonna, really finish me off? And here, this is a blitz game, remember. So pause your videos, take 50 minutes, and see if you can find what he played in probably 5 seconds. So here he comes up with a very brilliant maneuver. And again, there's probably a lot of moves to consider here and a lot of different plans. But it is sort of a long-term plan. And he comes up with a very interesting maneuver. And I think once you see it, you'll appreciate just how strong it really is. So okay, it's black to move, play like Bobby Fischer.
Knight to g4.
You want to go back to g4, even though there's not even a pin there anymore?
Right, now the queen over. Oh no, the bishop's there. Never
Yeah.
mind.
Okay. Okay, that one's out. Got it.
Blitz game.
Yeah, it's a blitz game, so with most of the blitz games here, that would be the normal continuation.
Right. Knight to h4.
Knight to h4. I think that's actually one of the moves to be considered if I'm ready to go here. And I think this is an okay plan. I think this is one of the things the computer wanted to do. So this is fine. But then where are you going from here? Okay, you got your knight there. Are you really ever going to take here? It's hard to, you know, move your rook and get more attacks here because your knight would be hanging on h4. I mean, this is just an okay move, though. I mean, but he had something even deeper.
Trojanist?
Yeah.
H8, F7, G5.
Exactly. Knight h8, f7, g5.
Probably.
You know, in attacking all this stuff here, there's going to be some sacrifices, and that's going to be the game.
Fischer sacrifice, right?
Yeah, Fischer sacrifice. You know, and yeah, you'll notice a lot of aggressive players throughout history, they've liked the King's Indian. You know, it's, you get to attack. So that's what you see. And this all happened, and he got all prepared, and then he did it. And now black is winning. All right, and I think this was the last move here. I'm attacking your queen. Also, my queen enters the game, and your king is not going too far away. He's going to stay over here on this side of the board.
You can see something in the blitz game.
Yeah, he played knight h8 in the blitz game. So yeah, I hope this gives you guys sort of an idea. And in this game too, let's just recap it very briefly here. I think a very interesting moment was even this early on. He plays the move c5, and white just never got anything going. So if white never gets anything going, you just get a free attack. And that's exactly what happened. And then he's Bobby Fischer, so the attack, you know, worked out.
Show this to kids if you're teaching them, because you're moving
Right.
your pawns and you got
Moving all your pawns, just
Yeah.
moving rooks up in random places. Yeah, you get all these funny maneuvers.
3 undeveloped
But,
pieces.
Yeah, so you have to be sort of creative and imaginative if you want to play this way as black. But I think it is good for certain people, especially if you've just never tried it. It's good. It just gets you, you know, it can really inspire you to play sort of unusual and think a little bit different about chess, because it's all about giving checkmate and attacking in these kinds of positions. And, you know, we want to play g4. How are we going to do it? Rook up and over. That's how you play this opening. Well, I hope you guys like that one. Again, let me know in the comments below what other pawn structures do you guys want to see. As always, hit like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week.